Hello, welcome back to the Introduction to the Linux Command Line series. This is video number 3. In the previous video, we looked at the Linux directory structure, how it works, and moving between folders or directories. In this video, we're going to look at commands that will allow us to interact with files and read and understand their content. So join me. All right, so for this video, we're going to look at 3 commands. We're going to look at the ls command. We've seen it before, we've used it, but we're going to look at it with more detail, and the file command and the less command. So we've seen ls before. It's very useful. You can list files and folders within a directory. You can use it the way it is. You can pass to it an argument. So I can ls the folder user, and then I get the contents within that folder. I can also pass 2 arguments to it. So I can pass the home directory and maybe user. And there you go. You see that for the first argument, we got the home directory contents displayed. And then for the second argument, we got the /user directory displayed. You can pass maybe /home. So you can basically pass as many arguments as you like to it in terms of either relative or absolute paths, and you can get those printed for you. And notice what it does is it would print the absolute path for the directory that you are printing. And in this case, it's displaying /home first, then /home parallels, then /user. It looks like it is sorting them alphabetically. It appears to be the case, but in any case, you can pass as many arguments as you like, and then you see them printed. So we've seen ls with like on its own or with an argument, but what if we want to use ls with an option? So to add an option, you add dash, and then you usually add a letter or multiple letters. Each letter would denote an option that you're basically communicating to the command. So let me show you. I'm going to use L for long. So instead of this format, if I use -L, I'm going to get the long format, which has additional details. Some of it is probably too early to discuss at the time being, but just keep it in mind that if you want to use a command, you have the option to use options and arguments, or on its own if it's designed to work on its own, like the ls command. So I can use an option -L like we've seen earlier, and I can pass an argument like /user, and that's going to apply that option on the argument being the absolute path that is being printed by the ls command. All right, let's look at another option. So I got the lt option, which T stands for sort by modification time. So here we're seeing the most recent to be modified is the Hello World folder that we created in the last video, I believe. And these folders come after. So if I go on, create a new folder, I'm going to call it latest, and I run the LT again, I'm going to get latest printed at the very top, which means it's the most recent, and then all folders will follow. If you just use the -L, then latest doesn't have to be at the top or at the bottom of the list. So what you're really saying here is sort by modification time. So these dates that you see here are the modification dates and times when the file was modified. So we can use options with a single dash like we've seen, so LT, or we can use options with double dash. So ls-lt, double dash, and then you can insert here. So the difference between a single dash and a double dash, typically with a single dash, you have a letter that corresponds to an option. And so you can have multiple letters, and each one would be its own option, where with a double dash, you can have a human readable option, like a word or multiple words. So if it's a word, then you just type in the word like reverse, and that's going to reverse the order of which it is printing the entries, or it could be multiple words like human readable, for instance. So human, and then you add dash in between words, and then readable. So the difference between this output and this output is that this one is human readable, which means that the file size is in a format that is easier for a human to understand. So you don't have to do a bunch of math to convert between 4096 bytes to 4 kilobytes. So I'm going to walk you through some more options now for you to try out. So ls-a will display everything within the directory, including files that start with a dot, which basically means that the file is hidden. So an ls wouldn't display any file that starts with a dot. We have also two special directories, the dot and the double dot, as we've seen in the previous video. So the dot would be the current directory, and the double dot would be the directory that is one level up. I can also use -a. So that's going to be almost all, which means that it's going to display all your hidden files and directories and your visible files and directories, but without the two special directories, the dot and the double dot. You can also combine them both in one option, or like one option block. Now we can achieve the same thing as we've done here by using the long form of an option. So we can use all, and we can use almost all, and that'll achieve the same thing. So typically, but not always, with every short format of a command, of a commands option, you sometimes find the long format equivalent of that command option. Another option is to use the D option. So D stands for directory. So do you know how, like, when you do LA, you're displaying the contents of the working directory? Here, you're basically LSing the directory itself. So this refers to your current working directory, or where you are, and it would be the equivalent of going back one level and executing this and comparing this line to this line. You would see that they're both identical, except for this one is being referred to as dot and this one is being referred to as parallels. So you get the point. There's lots of variations and things that you can do with the ls command. Another, maybe one last one would be the capital S, which would sort everything by size. And you could use OR to reverse that sorting, basically. So you can play with these options. You can look them up on the internet and experiment for yourself. The next command that we're going to look at is the file command. For every Unix-like operating system, Linux being one of them, we're not really concerned from a operating system perspective with things like a file extension. So a file extension can be anything. It does not matter. So let me demonstrate this for you. So we can use the command file to, let's say, this file .config. So you might think, well, there is no file name. There's just an extension because there is a .config. What is config extension? It doesn't work like that. Like we said, dot at the beginning of the file means it's hidden, and we're not really thinking in terms of extension here. If you execute that, well, you get, well, this is a directory, actually, it's not a file. So maybe, well, this is definitely a file. So .bashrc, so we can say file .bashrc, and then we're gonna get ASCII text. That is the type of the file. So I can go in the file system here. I can show hidden files in folders, and then find that .bashrc file. I can rename it and perhaps give it the .txt extension. Like, you might be familiar with that extension from, say, Windows or even Linux as an extension for a text file. And then if you execute that, you're going to get the same result. I can change the extension to something like MP3, like an audio, compressed audio file. So let's do that. .mp3, and then I can execute file.bashrc.mp3, and I'm going to get the same result. So basically the extension is just part of the name. It's for the user, it's not for the operating system. I can use another command to view the contents of a text file. The command is called less. So I could type in less.bashrc.mp3. So notice what is happening here is we're getting a text viewer within our terminal. So I'm seeing the first part or the first page of that file, basically whatever that it could fit within our terminal window size. I can scroll up and down, so I can scroll down by one line using the letter J. So if I keep typing J, I can keep scrolling down. If I type K, I can scroll up. If I am done, I can hit Q for quit. And notice we have a file extension that says .mp3, and it doesn't matter because the contents of the file, the way the file is structured, the file MIME type is, so we can use an option here, and it's going to show that our MIME type here is text/plain. So it's a plain text ASCII formatted file that we can view its content using the less command. Let's explore the command less a little bit more. So less, as we've seen, can take an argument of a file name that exists within your working directory. So this being the relative path to the file .bashrc.mp3, which essentially is this, right? And Q for quit. We can also pass to it a absolute path. So I've got a file called passwd in the directory etc. And we're going to talk more about this directory and other directories in future videos. In order to scroll down and scroll up by one line, we use J and K. If you want to go page down, you use D. So keep hitting D until you hit the end. And if you want to go page up, you use B. And then that brings you all the way up. If you want to go all the way down, you hold down Shift and press G, and that's going to bring you all the way to the bottom of the file. And without Shift, just lowercase g would bring you all the way up. What else? Yeah, so you can also hit the H button for help, and then you can scroll through the help manual in the same way you would in the file. If you want to return, you hit Q, and then you go back to the file. If you want to search for a string of characters within the file, you can hit the / and then type your search basically term. So I'll search for user. There's a lot of user. So I'll search for user, and then when you hit enter, you see all the user occurrences have been highlighted, and you can use N to basically move through the occurrences. You can use capital N to move back. So N moves you forward towards the end of the file. And then if you hit the end of the file, you can use capital N to search backwards. Yeah, that's about it. And then you use Q to quit the file. That's it for this video. I hope you found it really useful. We covered the commands ls, file, and less. If you want to learn more about these commands, feel free to research them on the internet and experiment for yourself. Please consider giving the video a thumbs up if you found it useful, and consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next video in the series.